Airlines spent decades predicting how Southeast Asia's flights would flow. Then an airport arrived that was designed to rewrite those models, Longthan, planned for long-term growth rather than quick fixes. Most carriers treated it as a distant project. Then a single planning decision sent ripples through every route map. The question that followed changed airline strategy overnight. What had they missed? Route planners rarely gamble. For decades, their work has relied on models built around predictability, existing hubs, proven demand, and infrastructure that grows in careful, measured steps. Each new route, each added connection, fits into a forecast stretching 5, sometimes even 10 years ahead. The process rewards caution. Airlines invest billions in aircraft and staff, but only when the numbers line up with established airport performance. A new hub, built from the ground up, is usually met with skepticism until it proves it can deliver steady, reliable traffic. Most airlines prefer to concentrate growth where risks are lowest. They lean heavily on airports with a track record of handling volume and maintaining on-time operations. If you enjoy understanding why countries invest billions into projects like this, not just how big they are, consider subscribing. This channel breaks down the ideas shaping the future before they become obvious. Planners run scenarios using historical passenger flows, slot availability, and established transfer patterns. Even when a new airport is announced, planners typically pencil it in as a distant possibility, not an immediate priority. The models assume that passengers will continue to funnel through the same choke points and that any relief from a new project will arrive slowly, if at all. Forecasting tools are built to favor what is already working. When planners look at Southeast Asia, they see a web of connections anchored by a handful of established airports. Their algorithms weigh factors like minimum connecting times, customs processing, and the reliability of ground transport. The baseline assumption is that new airports, no matter how ambitious, rarely shift the flow of traffic unless they solve an urgent problem or offer a clear, proven advantage. This conservative mindset is reinforced by past experience. Many large airports have opened with grand ambitions, only to see airlines wait years before shifting major operations. The risk of overcommitting to a project that fails to attract enough traffic is ever present. So, while the industry watches announcements and construction updates, most route planners continue to base their models on what is already in the system. It is a culture that prizes stability over speculation, and it is why a project like Longthan faced more than just engineering hurdles. It had to overcome deeply ingrained habits in how airlines imagine the future. Long Thanh International Airport sits 40 kilometers east of Ho Chi Minh City, carved out of open land in Dong Nai province. Unlike most new airports, it was never just a response to short-term congestion. From the start, its design spoke directly to airline planners, a greenfield site with room for 4 runways, terminals built to scale, and a first phase already equipped for the world's largest aircraft. On day 1, the main runway could handle an Airbus A380, rare for any airport in Southeast Asia, let alone one opening from scratch. The word airline mattered here. This was more than an engineering milestone. For airlines, it was a message. Here was an airport that was not boxed in by city limits or legacy infrastructure. Every element, from its footprint of 5,000 hectares to the taxiways and cargo aprons, was planned for growth that would play out over decades, not just a few years. The initial capacity, 25 million passengers and 1.2 million tons of cargo, came paired with a clear path to quadruple those numbers by 2035. Even the first commercial flight of Vietnam Airlines Boeing 787 landing in December 2024 was a calculated signal. This is a place built for long-haul, wide-body operations. The focus on growth was deliberate. While most new airports struggle to convince airlines they will be ready for complex operations, Longthan's approach was different. The infrastructure was not just future-proofed, it was future-facing. Airlines looking at their long-term models saw a rare kind of certainty, space to grow, reliable slot availability, and the ability to run round-the-clock flights without the curfews and bottlenecks that define older hubs. This was not a speculative project waiting to prove itself. It was a strategic signal that forced a second look at every Southeast Asia forecast. If you enjoy understanding why countries invest billions into projects like this, not just how big they are, consider subscribing. This channel breaks down the ideas shaping the future before they become obvious. The word billions highlights the scale. For planners, the airport's message was clear: the old rules about waiting for proof no longer applied. Longthan had left the speculative pile. It was now a fixed point in the region's long-term aviation map, and that changed calculations in ways few expected. The signal was simple and clear: plan as if this place will exist for decades, and airlines adjusted their models accordingly. Network planners began to notice something unusual as Longthan neared completion. For years, their models had treated southern Vietnam as a fixed constraint. International routes were built around the limits of Tan Son Nhut, with transfer points mapped to existing bottlenecks. But a new variable entered the equation: an airport with unconstrained expansion space and a design that did not just anticipate demand, but actively invited it. Airlines ran scenario after scenario, testing how a greenfield hub might rewrite their Southeast Asia logic. For the first time, transfer node calculations included a site that could scale to 4 runways and 100 million passengers within a generation, without the slot restrictions or curfews that defined older peers. This shift was not just theoretical. Vietnam Airlines, for example, rolled out 14 new international routes in 2025, looking beyond domestic growth to outward connections. The possibility of reliable round-the-clock operations at Longthan meant planners could start considering new long-haul links, routes that would have been dismissed as impractical under previous constraints. Even cargo strategies began to factor in the airport's initial capacity of 1.2 million tons, with major logistics players watching for early advantages. With each model rerun, airlines found themselves less tied to the risks of legacy hubs. The clean slate scalability of Longthan offered something rare: a hedge against congestion, delays, and growth limits elsewhere. Risk analysts noted the value of a land bank large enough for 4 runways, ensuring future expansion would not be boxed in by city boundaries or political compromise. In this new environment, hub dependency became a choice, not an inevitability. Airlines quietly adjusted their long-term plans, building an optionality that until now had only existed on paper. Cargo operators and logistics firms watched Longthan with a different kind of interest. In December 2025, Vietnam Airlines and SATS signed a partnership agreement in Hanoi, laying the groundwork for joint development of new cargo terminals, including at Longthan itself. SATS, a major logistics provider with a network spanning 27 countries, brought experience from handling Vietnam Airlines freight across Singapore, Bangkok, and European hubs. Their agreement reached beyond ground handling, aiming to integrate supply chains and test new logistics technologies inside Vietnam's largest airport project. For airlines, this signaled that Longthan's role was not limited to moving passengers. It was being built to anchor the region's cargo and e-commerce flows as well. The numbers tell the story's scale. Longthan is planned to handle up to 100 million passengers and 5 million tons of cargo each year at full build-out. No other new Southeast Asian airport offered such a clear capacity roadmap from the outset. For planners, these figures were more than projections. They became a baseline for every serious long-term scenario. Even before the final terminals opened, the airport's cargo zone and logistics partnerships began to attract attention from global carriers and integrators looking for a foothold in Asia's trade routes. Taken together, these moves forced airlines to treat Longthan as an enduring variable in every serious network model. The airport's presence reshaped how planners viewed Southeast Asia's aviation map, not as a challenger to existing hubs, but as a permanent fixture with the scale and partnerships to influence the region's future connections. In the end, Longthan did not have to dominate overnight to change the rules. It simply had to be too large, too connected, and too reliable to ignore. Today, airlines quietly factor Longthan into every future route map, even before the first passenger boards. As Vietnam reshapes aviation logic, the real impact is not about opening day, but how unseen infrastructure choices ripple through global strategy. Individually, these choices may look minor, but together they point to a system-level shift. The next shift is already underway, long before most travelers notice.